So again, welcome to our application orientation for today. And as you all know, you're now on to the next stage, which is the application, which you're all very excited to have you here. And so we first wanted to give you a quick snapshot of the current process. So this is the neighborhood revitalization, and we have a budget of 350,000 and the cycle began on August 5th or August 1st. So we had 13 LOIs submitted with a request of a little over 1.2 million. And then we moved on 5 applications to the application round with a total ask of 700 and about 80,000. And then just continuing with that overview, we're all about the impact. So just reiterating our impact statement of Schenectady's neighborhoods will thrive, becoming places where residents feel safe, supported, and valued, encouraged and empowered to make changes in their community. So we're all about impact here at the Schenectady Foundation. So what we're wondering about your project and figuring out in your application is how does your project help us reach our intended impact? And we just want this to be kept in your mind as you're going through the application. So one, how will this project achieve first your intended impact? And then second, will it move the foundation towards our goal of advancing the sustainable well-being of Schenectady County residents? Continuing with the overview, just about the process. So we had the RFP released in August with letters of inquiry due at the end of the month. And we got those LOI decisions out to you on September 5th. And so we are now in the application round. So applications are due on October 8th at 12 p.m., so noon. Uh, and then after that, we will have applicant interviews the week of October 20th through the 24th. So this is meeting with our board. We're taking a deeper dive into your application, so clarifying, asking questions, and we'll go through more of this later in the presentation. And then once that is done, we'll have our grant decision-making meeting with our board on the 29th. And so you'll be notified soon after. So we say around October 31st. But as always, these dates are preliminary, so they may change just like a day or two if we need some extra time with that. So now let's dive into the application for today. Oh, and we're here in between September 5th and October 8th when you are currently writing your applications. So what is in the application? It's broken down into 3 parts. So the responses from the letter of inquiry, which carry over from the LOI to the application. And then we have our new application questions. So these are new to you, and we're going to review these in the coming slides. First, what the question is, and then a deeper dive into how to answer those. And then we have an optional section, which again, we will review later, but this is to help support the narrative further and really get a background into the realities of the neighborhoods and how your project is really furthering that and the underlying causes. So first in the application, we have our responses from the letter of inquiry. So this is just, an overview of what you've already answered. So these should look familiar. And they're already filled in, but they can be edited in the application. So they're going to be transferred over. But again, you do have that ability to edit those. And in your LOI, if we have inserted a comment or a question, make sure that that's addressed in the application. And then on to the next section, which is the actual new application questions. So the first question on the application is about community need and project importance. So the question is, what is a specific need within the community, and how does your project address this need, challenge, or barrier? So first, we ask that you identify the specific need. So using data or firsthand observations such as survey results, public health data, beneficiary testimonies, what is the barrier issue that exists in the community? And then second, how will your project respond to this barrier issue? So highlighting strategies, services, or activities that you will provide to address this need. And then third, emphasizing the project importance. So we have a real emphasis on stakeholder involvement in this process. So just stating why it is needed for the community and how do you know that this is needed. So tips for a strong answer to this question would be using specific local data or stories, being clear about the connection between the need and your project, and then explaining the results of not implementing this project. If this project did not happen, how does this leave the community? And then we go to outcomes. So the question is on the gray square on the side. So we're just going to review what outcomes mean and how you should be addressing these. So we ask for 1 to 3 of your principal project outcomes. So what is an outcome? It's a change in behavior, condition, or status, and it's measured at 3 levels. So we have short term, which is increased awareness or knowledge, in term, which are or actions based on that acquired knowledge. And then we have long term, which are the sustained changes in the condition or status. And for an example of this, for short term, it would be completing a job readiness training. So 85% of participants demonstrate improved resume writing skills. And interim would be within 3 months of completing the training, 65 participants applied to at least 5 job openings. And then long term, within 1 year, 50% of those participants secured stable employment. Then from outcomes, we go to our activities and outputs. So this is a form that is embedded within the application. So you're supposed to download that and fill that out and then upload it to the application. So we'll first review what activities and outputs are, and then we'll go through the form. So project activities are the specific actions that are taken to address the community need. So what are they? They're cleared and detailed, they're aligned with the project goals, and they're measurable. And then how is this different from an output? So I know that some people it's hard to differentiate outcomes versus outputs. So when we're thinking of outcomes, those are the changes in behavior and condition, while outputs are really things that you can count, tally, and number. So the outputs will be the deliverables of your project, so the direct and measurable products of the program's activities. So as I said, that these are items that you can tally, such as number of meals served, training sessions conducted, and participants engaged. So just to give an example of that, distributing weekly food boxes to 50 households for 3 months, the activity would be distributing those food boxes, while the output would be 50 households for 3 months. So now let's dive into the form. So this is how it appears in the application, first stating this question, asking you to list up to 5 major activities. Once you download that form, this is how it would look in the Excel sheet. And we're then again asking you to do up to 5. You don't have to do 5, but it is up to that. So what are we asking with each column? First, we're just asking you to number each activity to track what's going on, just providing a short name of the activity for the title, for the description, just describe what the activity entails. Outputs, list the direct measurable products of this activity. And then for success indicators, explain how you will measure whether the activity was effective. So here is an example that we'll be going through. Planting 10 trees in a local park over the course of 1 weekend. So an example for how to fill out this form would be list item 1, community tree planting. For the description of that activity, we host a weekend event to plant 10 trees in a local park with help of community volunteers. The associated outputs would be 10 trees planted, 1 community event held, and 15 volunteers engaged. In terms of success indicators, all 10 trees are successfully planted and remain healthy after 3 months. 3+ residents provide positive feedback on the park improvements. Are there any questions on how to utilize this form before we move on to the other parts of this application? Okay, fantastic. So this next slide is a big emphasis for us as a foundation, collaboration and stakeholder involvement. Because we know that real change and real systemic change involves many players and many stakeholders. So this is an element that we really place importance on and really emphasize to our applicants. So first, in that collaboration aspect, what are other organizations or programs are you working with on this project? What is collaboration? So collaborative efforts where multiple parties are either contributing resources, expertise to work together to achieve a project's goals and that intended impact. So an example of this would be a school working with a local food bank to provide meals during summer break. And then when we go into the stakeholder involvement, for neighborhood revitalization process, this is very important as, we're improving upon our neighborhoods and our community. It is very important that we have community member and stakeholder involvement in terms of the idea for this project, how it's going to impact them. So this is all about the involvement of beneficiaries in the design, implementation, and evaluation. So when you're looking at your project, are stakeholders, local community members, or residents involved? Have your participants, clients, beneficiaries been included in design, implementation, or evaluation? They may not be involved in every single step, but we do like, that in design or evaluation leading up to the design of this project. And as we all know, those who are closest to the problem should be the folks with the solution. So making sure that we're including community members and residents in these projects to ensure that it will have the greatest impact on that neighborhood or community. And then we go to sustainability. So this is all about what will happen after the funding period ends. So whether that's a year-long grant, multi-year, 18 months, whatever it is, after the funding period ends from the foundation, what will happen next? So how will the project continue? How will the impact be sustained? we don't want to bring projects or programs to the community and bring something important and then have it leave or dissipate and then leave the community worse off because um, they brought this program is great for them, but something fell to the side, such as funding, resources, and now it has to leave the community, leaving them worse off. And I do want to note that later we will be talking about our support series that is lives on our YouTube page and our website. And we do have a support series just on sustainability. And then one of the last questions out of, we have 2 questions left, which is first, just final comments. Do you have any additional information or documents that can further the information provided in the application that furthers the narrative? That could be pictures, other documents that kind of provide more of a background for that. And then quickly, we'll be going through our budget form. So we do allow groups to either use our budget form or yours, but we ask that you please share that with us before you submit your application, just to confirm that it's up to our needs for a board and for our staff. So if you will not be using our budget form, please send it to me in advance of submitting. And I do want to note that there is an item line that is named other. And if this is greater than 5% of your budget, we either ask that you recategorize it differently, or there's text space below the budget upload section where you can expand and explain those budgets. So I quickly just want to show how our budget form works. So I will now show that. Okay, great. So here is the budget form. So we ask that you input your project name up here, and then say you're requesting 75,000 from the foundation. You put that up there and it will go throughout the budget form. If you have grants from other organizations, you put that in the second column, and that should all transfer out throughout the form as well. So that first column is really about the Schenectady Foundation. So what you're asking from us and then the expenses from that grant. And then the other column is about other sources of funding. So first the revenue from those grants or contributions, and then the expenses from those sources. And then in that last column, we'll add all of those together to get a full project budget. Are there any questions on how to use this budget form? I can put in some numbers so that they all can, Are there any questions?
Oh, I had a quick one, Sophia.
Yeah.
Hi everybody. I'm Macaulay with Albany Barn Inc. and Electric City Barn. With this, is there any space where we can expand or add descriptions of those budget items? Or am I just like getting ahead of ourselves? I'm sorry.
No, yeah. So there is, with the budget question, there is an upload section as well as a text section.
Okay.
So you are able to explain the budget or if you have other sources that you would like to explain further.
Okay, great. Yeah, just because I was like, I feel like these are great buckets, but I'm like, oh, there might be more detail I can add for you all. Okay, thank you. I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
yeah, definitely. Any other questions?
I had a question.
Yes.
Ladan Nekrovan from New York Folklore. Should I assume that any budget item under expenses that is not there or not approved item, and everything that is lined up there, it is approved expenses?
Could you give an example of an expense that may not be included in these line items? You could also fit it to the line item and then put a description in the bottom that further explains as to why that's put in there, that section, or, how it breaks it down.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, yeah. And if you have any questions on that, and you would like to, ask out of the Zoom today, you can please email me and I'll drop my email in the chat later once we're wrapping up the orientation today if you have any further questions.
Thank you.
Yeah. And with that, I'll bring it back to our presentation. And I will now hand it off to you, Bob.
Thanks, Sophia. Sophia's brought you through all of the pieces of the application that you're required to complete. We also have this optional section, and there are no kind of points off if you decide not to do this. It's perfectly fine. To the degree that you're able to respond with something in this optional section that better helps us to understand what you're trying to accomplish and demonstrates your vision and your understanding of the issues you're trying to address. It can be very helpful. It can also be very helpful to you to go through these exercises, even if you decide not to submit. I'm going to take you through a couple of examples of what is an option to you. One is, just what we call mental models. And this is just deepening our understanding of systems that help us better understand what you're really trying to get at, right? And so there's kind of one of the better known mental models we just call the iceberg model, which I'll take you through. And then there's the theory of change, and sometimes this is called a logic model, or there's also a model that's very similar called so that chains, and we'll show you how this could help you actually, in a sense, plan your project to kind of go from outcome you want to achieve, and then, okay, how do you achieve it? Well, this is how we'll know we reached the outcome. Here are the steps to that. And it may help you, again, just going through this if you would like. It is a helpful planning tool. And for the funder, it provides additional context for what you're really trying to accomplish. So let's move on to the iceberg model. Oh, here we go. So I think I just described this, so we can adjust to the other. So here's the iceberg model. And in the application, in the optional section, you can actually click on a link that pulls up the iceberg model, and you can just fill it in. If you have a kind of a different mental model you want to use, you can use that as well. But so this is just one way to kind of approach mental models. So how does this help us? It really starts with, if you think about an iceberg, there's a lot, most of an iceberg is below the surface of the ocean, right? And so this is what we see, right? These are just what is happening. And this is a very simplistic kind of example, but I think it demonstrates kind of how this works. So what can you see? Well, somebody caught a cold, right? They're sneezing, you can see this, they're uncomfortable. Okay, that's what we see, and that's what we tend to react to, right? It's just the presenting evidence of there's something wrong. But if we go deeper, okay, is there a trend here that we're seeing? So in this case, this person has been catching more colds lately and is sleeping less, right? So those are some contributing factors, some trends that say, oh, maybe this is more than just a cold. And digging deeper, like what are the underlying structures, right? What has influenced the pattern of this person? And what are the relationships between the parts, right? The sleeping, the getting colds. Well, Maybe there's more stress at work, a person's not eating well, difficulty accessing healthy food. All these can be influences on person's health, and maybe that's part of the underlying structure of why this person is having this issue that we see on top of the surface. And then finally, in a mental model, what assumptions, beliefs, and values do people hold about the system? So what beliefs keep that system in place, right? Versus changing the system. So in this particular case, the beliefs of this person, what they embrace, is that their career is the most important piece of their identity. Uh, they feel healthy food is too expensive, and because they're such a go-getter, they say, well, I don't need all that sleep. I don't need rest. When in fact, I think most of us recognize you do need rest to be healthy, but some of us behave differently. So you're going from what we see, right? That's the presenting issue, all the way down to, all right, why is that present, right? And what is it about the situation, whether it's a person, an organization, a neighborhood, what exists in terms of why that's there? And so this really helps you to kind of get down to a place of transformation if we can address, once we understand those underlying assumptions, it can actually be addressed in a different way versus up on the top, here, take some medication. Down below, it gets more specific as to other factors. I only wish my doctor would use this kind of mental model when I go in to visit. So any questions about the iceberg model that we can address now? Okay, I think next slide. Okay, so here's the actual slide. If you want to use our download, this is how it would be used. It's a little more colorful than the last model, and actually it looks a little bit like Africa. So you can just fill in. And again, if you have a different kind of mental model that you like to use, and there's a lot of links out there on Google to different mental models, you're free to use it. This is just something that's there if you decide to use this particular approach. Okay, move on. So a theory of change. Okay, what is a theory of change? It really identifies what will lead you to the desired outcomes and longer term impacts, right? By actually mapping the steps, the strategies, the assumptions, the resources you need, the activities you plan to do. And it's like, how do these all fit together and kind of logically lead, right, to that intended impact, right? So what do you need to do in a theory of change? Well, it actually, we often say start at the end, right? Start at the end. What is the long-term impact that you hope to achieve? And so it's the reverse of kind of the list you see. Then say, well, what are the outcomes? And you can have very short-term outcomes, which tend to be more about learning and education. So if it's, let's say, to the kind of a health program, we're not, this person is unhealthy. What is the short-term change we want to see? Well, it could be, oh, now they understand. They've done some reading. They've been kind of guided by a medical professional as to the importance of getting enough rest, reducing their stress at work, all those kinds of things. That's a short term. Medium term is, they actually follow through, right? So maybe the number of hours slept increases, right? Or the number of restful days increases. So there are ways of saying short and medium to the longer term outcome, if that makes sense. But before that is what are the outputs, right? Could be number of visits to the medical office, to the doctor's office. It could be any number of activities that happen in order to set up the short-term, medium, and long-term outcomes. And then what are the inputs? What are simply the resources that need to be there, right? for you in this project to carry it forward to the outcome. There's also very similar, but a little different, is what's called a so that chain. And we have a link in the application so you can actually go to some examples of so that change, and you also have a model you can fill in. So it's more like it's not dissimilar to, in a sense, to the mental model we explained, in that it illustrates more or less cause and effect, linking each action to a result. So there's a logical sequence. So for example, we do this so that this can happen, right? So that it leads to a bigger change. So it's really pushing all of us to think more deeply about what has to happen to get to that change. So I think next slide, we'll actually have something. Oh, so here's the logic model. And so you start out with the impact statement. What's the vision? What are the priorities? Why are you taking this on? And this is just for you to be clear about why you're doing this. What are the assumptions underlying the planning of this project? And what factors may affect the performance that are out of your control, right? There are a lot of things that are out of our control. We may not be able to change them, but we have to be aware of what can influence our project, whether it's in a beneficial way or it's counterproductive. And then this is the format for a logic model, right? As I described earlier, it's got what are the inputs, who are your clients, what are the outputs, which Sophia described earlier. These are actual tangible. I think the example was number of trees planted, right, in the park. And then, as I described, what are short-term outcomes, which are often about learning. What are the intermediate, which is actually often about the actions taken because of the learning. And then the project end, what are actually changes, either as status or condition of the neighborhood, right? Or changes, whether it's a physical change, or it's a change in how the neighborhood interacts and comes together. It could be a number of people getting better housing situations. So that's essentially the logic model. And I'm a fan of these kind of models. Simply, even if you don't submit it again, it might help you dig deeper into what you're trying to accomplish. This is the so that chain. And how this works is, so we actually use this chain. We did a number of alterations to our grant process this year and to the application forms. And we use the so that chain to help us figure out what we need to do and why. So you can see up above, I'll just use a couple of examples here. So we, number one, surveyed participants, users of our systems, of our grant processes. We surveyed them so that we can adjust the processes to suit the user's needs and try to minimize the barriers to accessing funding from us, right? A second step, modify our forms, the LOIs, the applications, evaluations, the follow-up reports. So we wanted that applicants can request more easily and more clearly funding from us, and so that our distribution committee members better understand your requests, right? So it's all trying to get to a deeper improvement. Number three, there was verbal follow-up, final reports, storytelling as a metric with our grantees, so we can understand the true nature of the work, the results, and what's actually happening. It goes beyond a well-written application, because we know that varies from organization to organization in terms of their access to grant writing. But by listening to them, we actually learn sometimes a lot more than can be put into a narrative. And then what are some technical changes so that organizations, for example, can apply once, spend time doing the work rather than repeating the application process again. So, for example, we are doing or trying to do more of multi-year funding and trying to have less restrictions on the grants we make. And so we want you to kind of all be, unfettered or less burdened by our requirements so that you can just do the work that you need to do. And all of this, so this is a pretty long narrative, but all of this so you can better access the funds, keep doing the work, running your programs, and be freer just to get it done. And we're also fairly flexible on budgets. We just ask if your budget has changed, is altered by more than 10%, let us know, and why, and it's not going to be a problem. So finally, it really comes down to the bottom. Organizations can do the work that is going to help the foundation to achieve our intended impacts related to our issues: food security, neighborhood revitalization, and civic engagement. So hopefully this helps explain how we've tried to use this. And again, all these are optional, but it can be a good process to put inside your programming or your organization. All right. Okay. You gonna do this one, Sophia?
Yep.
Okay.
I got it. Is there any questions regarding, we went through all of the application at this point, so are there any questions on any sections or specific questions that we're asking?
I had a question, Sophia. I actually chatted you specifically because I don't know if I'm just missing it. Is there a way I would know what questions were left on our LOI? Like, is it in a specific section, or I just like the logistics of it? I'm like in there and I don't see any right away, and I just wasn't sure if I'm missing something.
Yeah, so there may not be, not everyone may have comments directly in
Oh,
their
okay.
LOI. Yeah, it's just if you did.
Oh,
We
okay.
just
I
want to
just
make
kind
sure
of
that
assumed
those are
everybody
addressed.
got something, and I was like, oh no, like
Sorry, no, I should have clarified that.
no, it's okay. Okay, appreciate that. I'll
Yep.
I'll do another double check, but would they just be like there if I had
Yep,
any?
they would
Okay,
just
great.
appear under the narrative of that question.
Oh, awesome. I appreciate that. Yeah, that's a little separate, so I'm sorry if I missed that.
Nope.
I came on a little late, but thank you
And
guys for this. This is always so helpful. I appreciate it. Just putting it out there.
Macaulay, I'll make sure after this meeting is over, I'm going to go in to your application and put some comments in. How's that?
Oh, okay, yeah. Just give me some smiley faces, thumbs
Yes,
up, all of that. Appreciate
exactly.
it. Oh my gosh. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Are there any other questions? Okay, fantastic. So, when we're we went through the whole application, so you've now completed and submitted it. When reviewing the application, what factors do we account for in this decision-making process? So first we look at the project importance. So what makes this project important to support now? Are the impacts clear and measurable? Is the project feasible in scope and in terms of organizational capacity? Are financial resources adequate? Can this project be sustained further? Um, does the applicant have a track record to make this project successful? Are there other resources that are leveraged? And overall, does this project make sense for us to support in terms of our impact statement and the foundation's mission? And then before you hit submit, these are some important to-dos. First, while you're going out and filling your application, make sure that you're hitting that save button throughout the process just to make sure that that is saved. And then when you're actually going to submit, make sure that you're hitting the submit button instead of the save button again. We do have a few applicants that has happened in the past, so just make sure you're hitting that correct button. Okay, so before you submit, make sure you have watched our support series. So I will be showing the website for the Schenectady Foundation's grant process, and I will show you where all of these educational or helpful links, videos will be or live on our website. So we have our support series webinars. Please ask questions if you're unsure of any aspect. Say with questions of the application, budget form, just please reach out. Make sure that you have clear and compelling stories. And proofread before submitting. So make sure that your grammar and spelling is all right. And then overall, make sure your application is a pleasure to read. So in terms of the LOI, we did ask for a 12-point font of Franklin Gothic. Please avoid run-on sentences. So making this easy for our reviewers to read, because we will be going through 5 applications. Sometimes it gets hard to differentiate, or it's, big block narratives that's just hard to find the details. So please use short paragraphs and have spaces and answer the questions that are asked. So first restating that question and then going through the narrative, so that it's clear in the beginning as to what the answer is for that question. And then uploading charts, data, and reports that expand upon your narrative and really share that story as well. Okay, so now you've submitted your application. What happens next? We hold grant interviews, so applicant interviews. So these are about 40 to 50 minutes. And we ask that you have, so this will be conducted on Zoom, and this is done with our staff and board. So we take a bit of a deeper dive into your application. So like what is being requested for what and why. Just gives us a chance to ask questions, take that deeper dive, as I've said, learn a bit more about your organization and the project history. So if it's currently funded, what happened with the previous grant, addressing the impact and outcomes, what does success look like after a year? And what we always ask our applicants is, if the foundation cannot fully fund your project, what does that mean in terms of project scope or funding wise? And before we conduct these interviews, we do send out a memo of what to expect in your conference so that you are able to prepare for that further. And then important things to do. So it will be conducted on Zoom, and we ask that you have up to 3 representatives. So this could be program leaders, your executive directors, your board members, or your benefactors or community members, residents that are involved in this process. So it's typically best if there's a prepared presentation. It really helps show our board what's going on, and having data and charts in that presentation as well. So the most important thing is tell us items that are not in your application. So this is meant to go further than that. So really emphasizing what's going on, that real data and stories. Are there any questions on the grant interviews? And I will be sending out a list of dates, and I will be asking for the best 3 days and times that work for you, and then we'll be able to set up that meeting. And these will be conducted October 20th through October 24th, so I'll be reaching out in the next few weeks to set those up. Any questions on the grant interviews? Great. So after the interviews, we then come back to our board decision-making meeting that is held, and then next we alert applicants on decisions, so approval or denial of requests. So we just wanted to share that if you are awarded, we want to set expectations for post-award timelines. So around that October 31st timeline, that first week in November, our decisions will be shared. And then after those, we hold grantee meetings, which we go over our grant agreements, payment timelines, reporting timelines to make sure that we're all on the same page. Those will be done in early November. And then we request those checks, and it takes about 2 to 3 weeks to come in. So we should be within that the first weeks of December to get those checks out to the awarded grantees. And then finally, our applicant support. So I am available for office hours for assistance on Tuesdays from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. and Wednesdays from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. So you can send me an email letting me know that you have this question, or you can give us a call. Typically, I just want an email beforehand just so I can prepare for, any information you may need. But always welcome to call or email me, and I will again share my email at the end of this. And then as we said earlier, we may have some comments throughout your application if we're reviewing as you're going along. So just look out for those, because you won't get a notification that a comment was left. So we're just asking that throughout the process, you're just checking for those. And then as shared, we do have webinars and instructional videos known as our support series. So we have one on our budget form and sustainability, and I will show you after the next slide where those can be found. So just finally wrapping this up with our timeline. So here we are on September 17th at 10 a.m. for our orientation. Applications are due October 8th at noon. The applicant meetings are October 20th through the 24th. And then around the October 31st are decisions that are shared. Any questions before I go to our website? Great. And I will now pull that up for everyone. Okay, so this is our website, and here's where you'll find everything about our grants. So we have first our budget for this grant process, the application dates. So these are all shared on our website in case you need any information, you forgot any of things, reminds you of our impact statement, and then goes through the grant process. So as we go through these, here are the outcome terms. So this is a little definition sheet that goes through outcomes, outputs, goals, objectives, getting us all on the same page as to what is defined as what, so that we're easily able to go forward with the same definition, same wording. So if you click on this, it comes out to another document that you're able to work through these definitions. Here is the foundation online grants that we use. In case you do not have that link, it is always found on our website. My email is also shared there, as well as the Welser office phone number. And then here we have our resources spot. So it talks about application support, the office hours, found at application assistance. So this will actually bring you to the database for grants, and it shows you how to log on, managing requests, all of that. And then our support series videos. So we have our general orientation from the beginning of this year, our sustainability, and then our project budget form support series. And then finally, we will just wrap this up with thank you for being here. Here is the contact information, and I will share my email in the chat. And now we will open it up for any questions, comments, thoughts.
Hello. Just a quick question, which I think that I asked at our last meeting, but just kind of confirming. So, with ours being a building project, a lot of it is estimates, and we're working with looking for a general contractor to kind of give us a better estimate of those things. So, for budget, is it best to kind of submit the estimates that we're getting and then kind of realizing by the time the project would break ground next spring that things might have gone up, probably?
I advise you in the budget, you could put in perhaps what you're currently getting in terms of the estimated amount for the project, and perhaps build in, let's say, a 10%. This is often construction projects. There's always a contingency line,
Yes. Yep.
which could be 10 or 15%, depending upon
Sure.
which way the materials and the labor is going. So I'd always have like just identify what are the projected costs at this time and put in some form of contingency.
Okay. Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Ellen?
Hi, this is just a logistical question. The week that you do the interviews, are we able to request a preference on a date?
Yes, so I will send out an email to all applicants with all, you know, the days of that week and the times that were available. And then I just ask that you give us 3 days and times that work best for you, and then we're able to schedule them further from there.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, and I will be sending those out in the next couple weeks, just to, plan ahead of time, make sure that everyone has it on their schedules. It's a busy year, busy season, so that calendars get booked up fast. Great. I know that we have 2 minutes left on our hour call. Are there any more questions? Yes,
my God.
Macaulay.
I was like, I always have a question. It's just such a habit. Most of the people on this call that know me know that. This is a silly-ish one, and Sophia, I actually emailed you this. I had such a trouble getting Franklin Gothic font to copy into my LOI. So I know you said you were so sweet. You emailed me right back and you were like, it will not affect it, but dang, did I feel really dumb. I was like pasting it in multiple ways. I didn't know if anybody else had that problem or if it's like, okay, great. Thank you, Elizabeth. I appreciate that. I was like, what am I doing wrong? Like, I think I'm copying and pasting correctly. I sent a video to Sophia. I felt so silly. I was like, I am missing something, but I just wasn't sure if like you have recommendations on how to do that. And like, oh my gosh, I feel like this is such a tiny thing. So if we don't have time to talk about it, but like I want to make it easy for you guys.
Oh, yeah, definitely. There are some quirks sometimes in our database. So there are like certain questions that may use the paste, and then for some reason the next question doesn't. But we are working with the database to hopefully clean up some of that. So I'll reach out to you if any of that is fixed.
Yeah, and I'd say it's not so much important that it's Franklin Gothic. The issue is if it's just the way this particular program takes your narrative, right? When printed out or even seen on the screen without zooming in on it, it's very small, and it becomes difficult for the reviewers to follow, right? Because it's all very compact in that site. It's another reason why we urge, like we get some submissions and there's no space between paragraphs. So it's just like a big run-on narrative. And if you're a reviewer, you sort of right glaze over when you see that. And you want your information to be punchy. You want it to come out. You don't want it to be buried. So that's why we're looking for a different way of formatting. So we will go back into the application, and we'll try to fix any issues with that. But just keep that in mind. Don't hone in necessarily on Franklin Gothic 12. The point is, we want it to be readable.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. It did feel like a little bit back to like writing in grad school. Like, oh my God, I don't have the right point font or whatever. But yes, I understand the method behind it and the reasoning. So I appreciate you guys. Oh my gosh. And thanks for this.
Great. Thank you all so much for your time and for joining us today. Again, if you have any questions, I did drop my email in the chat. And thank you all for submitting your LOI for this process. And we're excited to learn more and read your application. Thank you all, and I hope you have a great rest of your week.
Thanks for hosting this. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. Bye.